This episode is brought to you by Mortal Kombat. Are you ready to fight? On April 23rd, don't miss the action event of the year when Mortal Kombat, the worldwide phenomenon, comes to life. Mortal Kombat is in theaters and on HBO Max April 23rd. Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent present.
Empire.
Deal back to Hachimura. Konnichiwa.
First off, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
It was more just shocking to hear from him and understanding that he gets the most assists from me and the most spoon-fed baskets ever.
You know, the culture is actually damn good.
To sit up there and to say you don't have a culture problem in the nation's capital, everything about the organization points to a culture issue.
One guy took a in another guy's shoe.
A little pissed off about it, but I know how I am. I was kind of expecting it. It's disrespectful.
It was like Eric Killmonger going for total domination. What hug is mine?
We're not going to be fucking sucked this year. We're the Stanley Cup champions! Yeah!
This podcast is all over social media, so follow us on Twitter at BeltwayBroPod, Instagram at Beltway_sports_bros_podcast. Also the Facebook group, just search Beltway Sports Bros Podcast. And you can also find us at BeltwaySportsBros.com. There's a podcast player right on the front page. If someone you know doesn't want to or know how to download a podcast app or even knows what a podcast is, just tell them to go to the website and hit play. Simple as that. Thank you for joining us today. We are the Beltway Sports Bros. I'm Matt Vazana, and as always, my brother Noel. Hey, Noel, it's a Friday, so a little later on, we're going to have another installment of
Top 5 Friday!
Yeah. Yes, indeed. So, hold on for that.
That's my UFC voice. It's time!
You might have a career, you know? You should look into that.
I think so. I've always had a radio voice.
Have you?
And a look for TV as well.
That's debatable. But first, let's start off with the Wiz. Haven't talked about them in a little while.
The Wiz!
Well, we did talk about them for a little bit in the last episode.
A little bit.
But apparently the Wiz only consistently win on the West Coast, so we actually have something positive to talk about here. They've actually won 4 of their last 5 games and even beat the Jazz, who have the best record in the league, for the second time. This team's just, they're a mystery. They're an enigma. Wrapped in an enigma.
Vest.
And also, Noel's favorite player of all time, Russell Westbrook, he's been on a tear with 6 straight triple-doubles.
A tear.
24 overall. It's regardless of what you think about the stats and how he's a stat stuffer or whatever you want to say.
That's exactly what he is. He's a stat stuffer. I'm not whatever you want to say. He is a stat stuffer.
Well, I know. I'm saying you're going to say that at some point. But there's been 91 total triple-doubles in Wizards/Bullets history. Westbrook has 24 of them in 54 games. And I've been noticing, by the way, I know you're going to say, you're going to just destroy this guy, but I've been noticing that with his rebounding ability, they've been able to get out on the break a lot quicker, as of late especially. It's not just like him going to grab a rebound over Daniel Gafford or something just to get a rebound. When he gets that, he transitions very quickly.
Good.
Yeah, it is.
No, I'm glad. I mean, when you have Hachimura and you have whether it's Lopez or Gafford or Len down low, you really need Westbrook down there when you've got 2 guards open from three-point range to be grabbing 15 rebounds. It really helps things a lot. Now, hold on. I gave you your moment in the sun with this Westbrook thing. Now,
I'm liking him more and more. I am.
He has 10 triple-doubles in the last 11 games, and this is as of the Kings game, which is the last game we had as of this recording, right?
Correct.
They're 6-5 in those games.
Mm-hmm. Well, Beal was out a lot of those games as well. Let's not forget that.
Hold on.
Okay.
Now, what does that bring to the table is what I'm saying. Is 6-5 a good enough record for this team? If this guy's blowing it up and you said he's kicking the door in the last 6 games, well, they're 4-2. Good job. But this team was looking to, I don't know, when we started the season and we were talking about pregame and all this, that potentially this team could be vying for a decent playoff spot. 6 seed maybe at best we were talking about. I was.
Yeah.
We're in 12th place.
I know.
Why are we sucking each other's dicks around here because this guy's getting triple doubles? I don't give a shit if he's Oscar Robertson.
He's not. He only has one 6. Well, I mean, Westbrook has 3.
Hold on. Let me give you a couple of numbers here. Okay, Matt?
Okay.
Where would you say that Russell Westbrook is in the conversation when it comes to plus or minus on points? Ranked in the league.
Pretty low, I'm sure.
Let me tell you, that was a rhetorical question.
Oh, sorry. I don't know the exact.
He's 7th worst in the entire NBA.
Okay.
We're not talking about, because we're on a bad team or anything. He's at negative 245.
All right.
Okay? Beal, for example, is at negative 101. This is through 45 games. So they played 47 at this point.
Well,
this
they've lost a lot of games, too, and they play the most minutes.
Well, no shit.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm looking at this list of players that is above him. We don't have fucking Chris Paul on here. These are a bunch of role players. And they're all Cleveland and Oklahoma City. Approximately the same record that the Wizards have. You know who the worst plus-minus guy is in the league? Maladon, a rookie from Oklahoma City, the French kid.
Mm-hmm.
He's at negative 405. That's horrific. But he's a rookie on a bad basketball team. He plays about 27 minutes a game. The only outlier on that list that's worth a shit about talking about beyond being a role player is Vucevic.
Okay.
At the Magic, now is with the Bulls.
Right.
Who's in second place with the worst, and he's at negative 335.
It's pretty surprising, actually.
That is shocking when I saw this listing. But I wasn't surprised to see Westbrook on it.
Well, I haven't done this research, but I would be interested to see what his plus-minus has been the last month and a half, something like that.
I have that for you, sir.
Oh, okay.
I have that for you, sir. The last 2 games over the last month are the only 2 that he had a plus percentage. He had plus 10 in the Jazz game, and he had plus 11 in the Kings game. Beyond that, he hasn't had a plus game in the month of April or in March. He had 1. And we're talking about, now we're patting this guy on the back like he's back. This is the Westbrook we waited for. Now, is he playing better than, I don't know, throwing the ball into the 5th row? Yes. But let's slow down here. What are we looking for out of this basketball team? Bertans in the Jazz game, you know how many times he touched the ball, Matt? I went back and looked at the game. Mr. 13 assists guy, you know how many times Bertans touched the ball in total? I'm talking about by accident the ball hitting him in the face.
I would say probably 9 or 10 times.
7 times.
Okay.
He's your 3rd best offensive option, not Robin Lopez dumping it off for him to do his stupid fucking hook so you can get 6 assists. That's not producing wins, my friend. Your boards, you're grabbing and sitting in the paint while freaking Donovan Mitchell is bombing threes from the moon, isn't doing a damn bit of good. So grab your 15 fucking rebounds while Curry is bombing threes all over the place wide open. That's my point.
All right, well, let's look at the positives here. They've won 4 or 5. Orlando, of course, they beat 131-116. Then the Golden State game we talked about last time. Lost to Phoenix pretty handily. Beat Utah, which, what did Utah have, like 24 straight home wins or something? And that's the second time they've beaten them this year.
And I'm not trying to, I love the Wiz. And I know I don't sound like it right now, but Utah.
You just hate Westbrook.
I hate Westbrook, but they didn't have Clarkson and they didn't have Conley. So kind of big things there. An all-star point guard and probably 6th man of the year were out that game. But, we didn't have Thomas Bryant, so I guess that evens it out.
They were blowing them out the majority of the game, too, and then they made it.
No, it was a hell of a game, man.
Yeah.
It was a hell of a game.
And I'm sure they've had injuries throughout the year, Utah, and have still won over 40 games this year. So,
great team. Absolutely great team.
And then, obviously, Sacramento won that one pretty easily overall. So, they've got, the 27th easiest schedule coming up. There's no way they're hitting the 8th seed. Impossible. I think they're 6 games, 7 games back. But possibly the 10th, and we'll see what happens. And if you don't know, they've got these play-in games so that the 9th, 10th seed, kind of similar to how the bubble was, you have to win 2 games against the 7th and 8th seed to advance to that 8th spot. Maybe get an extra game out of it for lucky.
Look, and that's my point. What's the end game here? We're right back where we started again. They're in the same place. They're in the same place they were last season when they were going to the bubble with this play-in bullshit, with Beal as the primary option. Having Westbrook didn't change anything. It didn't.
But it seems like they're hitting their stride a little bit now. And keeping in mind, they got ravaged with COVID. They've had a good amount of injuries. Bertans, Beal's been out.
Bertans has been a non-factor this season, Matt. Let's get real.
No, but he's now hitting over 50% of his threes. He was a huge reason they beat Utah, actually, because he hit like 3 straight threes and really pushed them above.
And didn't touch the ball again. Yeah.
I know.
My point is that what's the long-term plan here? What is going to happen next season? I am sick of watching Wizards games win or lose and seeing that little ticker at the bottom showing Westbrook with yet another triple-double. They're meaningless.
No, they are.
Okay?
I know that. I'm just saying that it's in the annals of the NBA, it's pretty impressive overall.
It always has been. But you know what's more impressive? If you would have come in and actually did what we thought that was going to happen, and this was going to put the team in a better place than they were the year before.
And that's another aspect of it. He was injured the majority of the beginning of the year, and then he finally kind of looks like himself. The turnovers are still a huge issue. My God, that Sacramento game, I've never seen so many fucking turnovers in my life. But everybody was doing it. Beal was doing it. I mean, he was getting the ball taken out of his hand every other play, it seemed.
The last 2 games were very good. I brought up the plus and minus aspect of it, not because I'm some type of crazy stats guy or like PFF for football or whatever it is, but it was so glaringly large. If he was middle of the road, point guards, plus and minus, you're on a bad basketball team, you're going to be in the negatives most of the time. It's just the way it is.
I'll tell you what, though, I'm a big Daniel Gafford fan. I think that guy could be something. He does a little bit of everything, plays really good defense. We have a small sample size, of course, but he's bringing a lot to the table, and he's got 2 more years left on his contract after this.
It's what Westbrook's been waiting for, to have that lob guy.
Beal was saying that, actually. I've never had anybody like that the whole time.
God.
Brooks said he may be starting by year's end. Hopefully he's not coaching by year's end, but we'll see about that.
I mean, you traded for the guy. Wagner even started a few games during the year. So, I mean, this big competition. I mean, I know Lopez is holding everybody back. He's that wrench in the gears. Every time you see that hook shot go in, you're like, damn, he needs to play more minutes. And this is going back to what I'm talking about. What is the end game here? Do you see this team when you're looking at this roster? Mm-hmm. You made that big trade for Westbrook. Now you brought in Gafford. I absolutely agree.
He definitely brings a different dimension.
He brings a different dimension than the other guys do. But with this 3-headed monster center thing they have going on.
Well, that's not going to be happening next year. Alex Len will be gone, and so will Lopez.
Okay, Gafford will be the main guy, and then they'll have Topley, Thomas Bryant will be healthy. Unless Avdia or Rui or another player takes some enormous leap and Rui becomes Kawhi fucking Leonard, where is this team? Nowhere.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that because I think the common denominator here is Scott Brooks. Once he's gone, and he will be next year, God willing, I think that you get a coach in here that actually has an idea of how to coach a team and has proper rotations and doesn't just forget about guys on the bench that, like, how many times has Garrison Matthews, like, lit it up in the first half and you don't see him again in the second half? He just, like, forgets about people.
Well, I totally agree with you there. But it is, and we've talked about this before, and we'll wrap this up, but it comes on the floor as well. Garrison Matthews is on the floor sometimes for quality minutes, and we talked about Bertans touching the ball 7 times in an entire game. And Garrison Matthews, where I've seen him in games where I didn't even remember the fact that he was in the game.
But that's when he keeps him in. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense.
You can't blame him for both, Matt. You can't have him in the game and then blame Brooks for having him in the game where Garrison Matthews doesn't touch the ball for 15 minutes straight.
I'm saying if Garrison Matthews...
That's Westbrook and Beal's fault. They're facilitating the ball and they're gunning and Beal isn't looking for him at wide open 3 and is driving it on 3 people trying to make contact, or Westbrook is passing it to Lopez.
I consider that also to be Brooks' fault because there's no structure in their offense at all. So I just think that you have a guy that comes in that actually knows how to coach. You're going to be at a totally different level.
I agree.
They do not have a bad roster. I don't give a shit what anybody says. You got next year you'll have Avdia, another year. He should be better, stronger. Rui has shown that he can actually be, if you feed him, can be the guy. it's tough to do that with Westbrook and Beal there, but when he has to be, he can turn it on. And then, you've got Gafford who's young. You've got Bryant who's young.
I like what he does, but Gafford kind of looks like another McGee to me.
He plays defense, which McGee did not.
Hey, we'll see, man.
And McGee thought that he could be a point guard at 7'2" or whatever he was. That guy was a clown.
All right, we'll see. We'll see. I wasn't happy with Wagner getting traded because I thought he got kind of screwed in the deal in his opportunity because I thought at times he played well, but it was a good eye on the Gafford thing, and we'll see. But to end it, you're right. Brooks has got to go, and then we can see where we're at from there.
Yeah.
I'm Byron Kerr, your host for the Curly W podcast. Join me on the Curly W for the very latest on the Washington Nationals. We'll give you an inside look as to what's happening with the Nats right now and give you also a chance to visit with Nats players and coaches, present and past, to tell you what it's like and what they hope to accomplish with the Nationals. From Fredericksburg to Nats Park, West Palm Beach to Rochester, Wilmington to Harrisburg, it's all Nats baseball. Subscribe to Curly W wherever you get your podcasts. Another great show from Empire Media.
Empire.
Support for this podcast comes from Wild Turkey Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. Let's tune in to their one-on-one with Jamal, a real bartender from Old Fourth Ward in Atlanta.
I really get into the backstory of whatever I'm pouring, out of respect. There are literally years of experience behind these bottles. Wild Turkey, same recipe since 1942. If you want a true classic, this is what you want to order.
Wild Turkey. Wild Turkey Distilling Company, Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. Copyright 2020, Campari American, New York, New York. Never compromise, drink responsibly.
Well, good. All right, moving on to the Washington football team. On Tuesday, the team signed Sammy Reyes, a 6'6", 270-pound former basketball player, played at Tulane. If you didn't know, Reyes tested as the most athletic size-adjusted tight end to ever enter the NFL.
What the hell does that even mean?
I don't know. I think he actually tested, I guess, based off of his size, his strength, his speed, all that kind of stuff.
Can I say something real quick? And I'm not trying to sound insensitive here. A 6'6" Chilean?
Yeah, how does that happen?
I mean,
he's like Yao Ming over there.
Yeah, right?
But just so you know, he ran a 4.65 in the 40, and he benched 225 pounds 31 times at the pro day. He's never played in a single down of organized football, by the way. Reyes was interviewed and claims that he had 15 to 20 teams interested in him after his pro day, and he had a bunch of meetings lined up. But once Washington called, that's the only team he was interested in, mainly because he lives in the area and wants to stay there. But, he's a hot commodity, apparently. A lot of teams after him. And for whatever reason, this is kind of a big story.
Could be the next Antonio Gates, man. Tony Gonzalez. Jimmy Graham.
Yeah.
Really, a big guy with good hands that is quick can potentially make it. And in this day and age, the way the tight end works, blocking is always a work in progress anyway, right?
Well, I think everything's going to be a work in progress with him.
Absolutely. But what I'm saying is, if he's a good receiver that can streak down the middle of the field or whatever it is, if this guy even makes the team, that's not teachable to be fast, big, good hands, right? But blocking, if you're average, they can manage you. I mean, Jimmy Graham has never been known as a great blocking tight end,
right.
Or Antonio Gates worked into being a good blocking tight end. Tony Gonzalez, on the other hand, was just an enigma. He was good at everything.
Right. And back in his day, outside of Antonio Gates, who's kind of the same time period, they needed tight ends to block. That was their first objective. If you're going to play on this team, basketball player, you're going to fucking learn how to block.
You're going to run block. You're going to seal the edge, do all that shit that, and we're not going to help you out with a running back and all this crap. You better get in there and block.
Yeah, now it's just, in college, they don't have blocking tight ends. So
it doesn't really matter.
Finding like Pitts, that's why he's going to be drafted so high, because he does everything, and he's just a complete monster in general. But yeah, actually, this Reyes fella outrated Pitts as well.
Come on.
I'm not saying that he's better than him, but...
and his story is crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard about... So, whatever money he had in his pocket, he says, you know what? Hell with it. Comes over. He plays JUCO basketball for 2 years.
He came over when he was 14, right?
He came over here
by himself without his family or anything.
Paid his way to get here. Ended up, finishing up, graduating, goes to JUCO, plays basketball there, Then he goes to Tulane, plays basketball, and now here he is doing this, what do they call it, the international pathway?
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah, they just started that, I think, this year or last year.
Just last year. So good for him. But imagine if you're Thaddeus Moss.
Oh, poor guy.
You get your ass cut, and they're like, really? They bringing this dude literally off the street?
I don't think they cut him because of Reyes.
I know, but still, the coincidence.
The Thaddeus Moss thing doesn't make any sense. You don't have anybody else you could cut. It's not like we've got world beaters at tight end right now. You got fucking I almost said Sammy Ball. Marcus Ball at tight end.
Slinging Sammy.
Yeah, well,
he can play every position, man. He's a beast. I'd make that mistake too.
But Marcus Ball, Dylan Cantrell, and Tyrone Swoops is what you're looking at behind
Logan Thomas.
So it's slim pickings, to say the least.
I mean, I hope it works out.
They may actually draft a tight end too, though.
I'm sure.
I would hope so.
I'm sure
they got to.
Yeah, I mean, and also just to bring in, like we said, a blocking tight end. Logan Thomas isn't, he's new to the position too. To a certain extent. Right. I mean, he's still a work in progress in certain aspects of the tight end spot too. So everybody's raw. They might need to bring in a guy that can do both, like a Sprinkle type, but maybe actually a little bit more athletic down the field.
Well, Sprinkle's now with the arch rivals here.
Moss is with the Bengals, so good for him.
He got picked up right away.
He did.
The Bengals love picking up shit players. I'm not saying he's a shit player. I don't. Who the fuck knows?
Maybe Randy made the call. He's like, look, dude.
I kind of wanted to see how Thaddeus Moss did.
Me too.
Honestly.
But he's back with Burrow.
Yeah, yes, he is. Burrow probably pushed for that in reality.
Yeah. Well, good for them. And, hey, maybe this Reyes thing will be a movie someday. Yeah. He'll go back to Machu Picchu, wherever it is, and give that story in his rocking chair.
Well, the percentages of this working out are pretty low.
Yeah, very low.
But to finish this off, I mean, what they did with Logan Thomas was pretty incredible, right? They've got a very good tight ends coach. I forgot the guy's name. He's made some chicken salad out of chicken shit before. And maybe that's one of the reasons that this Reyes wanted to go. He probably didn't even know who the hell he was, but he did see that, comes over, and then lights up the league, who's a quarterback. Maybe he's in the right spot.
Yeah.
And knows that the tight end spot is thin as fuck here. Well,
that's probably another motivating factor is that, hell, he's looking at the list.
It's like, I could make this team.
Yeah, he's like, come on, man.
Like me. I mean, I got some size, 6'2".
Yeah.
That's a
decent hands.
Yeah, my hands are pretty solid.
The blocking's still a work in progress, just like the rest of them.
Yeah. Well, good luck, Mr. Reyes.
Yeah.
We'll be rooting for you.
Hello, it's Tyler Roman, former NFL scout and host of the Roman on the League podcast. Every week, I update my mock draft that not only looks at the best players available, but the needs for all first-round teams. The draft board keeps changing with all the movement this year, so tune into my show, Roman Around the League. That's ROMAN Around the League podcast. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast, and check out all of the great shows from Empire Media.
Empire.
All right, so staying with the football team, when we were on break, there was a small story that came out that the NFL owners unanimously approved Noel's God owner, Mr. Daniel Snyder. Yeah, he acquired 100% of the team, even though the official report hasn't come out yet for all the sexual harassment stuff and everything. But hey, give him 100. Great, let's do that. It ruffled some feathers, including fans, not to mention the sexual harassment accusers. They weren't very happy about this, but hey, Snyder wins again somehow. Always comes out on top.
The phoenix rising from the ashes.
Always does.
And now what's even better is he's got full control. And now he's going to come down on everyone that went against him.
Well, technically speaking, he's always had full control,
yes,
but
now full control.
Yeah, good for him. The worst part about that was that they had to make a special agreement with him. He didn't even have the money to actually buy the rest of the team.
It's so funny, isn't it?
It's like they're bowing down to this guy.
I don't know what this dude has, but I want some. That's all I know. God damn, man. This guy, I mean, you want to talk about making chicken salad out of chicken shit? He could double down on anything and comes out clean on the other side, man.
Well, he usually makes chicken shit out of chicken salad, but
no, I'm talking about on a monetary sense or empowering himself. The product is something different, I know.
So let's not get into all that old news, but some additional information that came out regarding Snyder's old buddy Bruce Allen. We already talked about this before at length, and go back to that episode, Et tu, Bruce, which was a phenomenal name. We went into real detail with that, but in case you have no idea what I'm talking about, Snyder's on the warpath. No pun intended. No.
Are we allowed to use that?
There was no pun intended.
But I mean, it could be there. There's an underlying theme to those words now, Matt.
Rubies on the warpath, perhaps?
You can't use arrow or tomahawk, mohawk. Even if you had one, you can't call it a mohawk.
No. So now he's going after his old friend for participating in almost 90 phone calls for over nearly 21 hours with John Moag. He represented the former minority owners who fully sold their shares to Snyder recently, as we mentioned. So this was reported by The Athletic's Daniel Kaplan, quote, petitioner, Snyder, has a good faith belief that the respondent, who is Bruce Allen, has specific knowledge of the creation and distribution of the MEAWW articles. Apparently that's what they're called. And thus has information relevant to the Indian action, that's in reference to the Indian company that was throwing out those crazy things about sex trafficking and all that shit. Something I found pretty funny as part of the filing Snyder listed himself. Listen to this. No surprise at all. He considers himself highly accomplished and a successful entrepreneur, businessman, and philanthropist. Okay. And then the filing also mentioned that, quote, through Snyder's tireless efforts, has built the Washington football team into one of the most valuable professional athletic franchises in the world. End quote. He has.
Hey, the man knows what he's doing.
Yeah. When the place is 20% full, when you could actually have fans. Great job, Danny.
Look.
Lowest TV ratings that they've ever had. All that stuff. It's good.
Well, what we're talking about here is the Bruce Allen aspect of it.
I know. I know. I apologize. I don't mean to offend you.
I know that you could go on Snyder all day, but we're talking about yet another scumbag of Bruce Allen, and we've talked about this before about him kind of backstabbing Daniel Snyder after he was canned. And one of the things that they've been looking at is because through all this sexual harassment and trafficking and all this other bordellos and everything else that they were doing, Bruce Allen's name, magically through this of the 10 years side by side with Daniel, his name has never come up in any of it. It's amazing. It's this scumbag, you mean to tell me, never even looked at a pair of boobs the entire time that he was there?
Oh, only his wife.
No, only. Always looks down.
Always looks the other way. That guy, what a class act.
He is.
Bruce Allen.
I mean, it's amazing to me that the guy has never done anything throughout this process. So that in itself is very damning to me.
It's a bit suspicious.
Yeah.
Well, and it's basically proven. I mean, he's got the information that he had all these conversations with Moag. So what are you talking about exactly? You know, this guy's trying to take ownership away from Snyder, from the minority owners, this Moag character. So, hey, let's talk to Bruce and just annihilate this guy.
Yeah.
And typical Bruce, the cockroach that he is, it was self-preservation, as we talked about before, right?
Sure.
And that's why his name was taken out of all this.
Go get him, Dan.
Yeah.
Go get him. Go get him, Dan. He's knocking the pins down, man. He's knocking the pins down. He's got Goodell in his corner. He's obviously got the NFL in his corner. He's had the NFL in his corner since day one. I don't know what pictures he has of people. I don't know what dirty laundry he has, but it's working for him.
No, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with... No, I know that, but I know you're kidding. But it has to do with that owners, they're not squeaky clean either.
It's a fraternity, man.
Yeah, that's all it is.
It's a fraternity. And hey, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. It's just the way it's done.
And it would open up a slippery slope.
Exactly.
Something happened to Snyder would happen to them.
Right.
And the world we're living in now, with everybody being so concerned about everything, saying anything, like, Redskins is a perfect example.
What have I said in the past? What have I said yesterday? What am I saying now?
It's only going to get more and more touchy every year, and they can see the writing on the wall. So keep them all together. It doesn't matter if this guy babies in his basement.
Right.
He's keeping his fucking team.
Absolutely. United Front, and they're going down their resume list and their skeletons, and they're saying, Dan knows about this one, Dan knows about that one, I know about this one, about him. They're all going down checklists and saying, let's just keep it in-house, man.
Yeah.
And
they're billionaires for a reason.
Yeah. But in the meantime, you got to destroy the little guys in the process of all that. And that's what he's going after now. And that's what's great. Got all these FedEx assholes out of there, all these hypocrites. Now he's got 100% power, and we're going to use that power.
God help us all.
Bruce, you're the first one in my crosshairs.
Man, fucking Bruce. The guy got 10 years of millions of dollars from this guy. Generational wealth. And he's going out to destroy him. Regardless of how shitty of a person Daniel Snyder is, and I have no doubt that he is, you can't keep your job forever, asshole.
Right.
You know what I mean? You were here for 10 years, and I guarantee Snyder still didn't want to get rid of him.
Absolutely not.
In reality, the fans pushed Bruce Allen out. The whole hashtag fire Bruce Allen, him seeing nobody in the crowd, the ratings being down. His hand was forced. And eventually, I mean, I think a decade's enough to show that you don't know what the fuck you're doing.
The only thing he earned was getting fired in that 10 years. And we've talked about this at length, about him being a scumbag and the Vinny Serratos of the world. And one thing Daniel Snyder is, regardless of the reason why he does it, because they kiss his ass or they're all a bunch of yes men, which is yes and yes, absolutely.
And he needs friends. And now he doesn't have friends.
They've wanted him out the door. Fans have wanted him out the door for years, and he's stuck with it.
Mm-hmm.
The Redskins name, all these things that have brought him negativity that he could have dropped. He has so much bad press already. He could have gotten rid of Bruce Allen 4 years ago, and at least that would have been off of his plate. But he didn't. And for you to come back like this, I hope that he takes him forever, whatever money that he gave him in that 10 years, and that's what it was. It was charity, because Bruce Allen did jack shit, and I hope he takes him for every dime.
I can't disagree with that. I really can't. If anybody's worse than Dan Snyder, it's Bruce Allen.
We are in agreement there.
All right.
Support for this podcast comes from PayPal. Small business owners, turn your smartphone into a cash register. PayPal QR codes are the safe and easy way to get paid in store, and they deliver the same security and trust PayPal is known for online, in person. Even if you're a cash-only business, with PayPal QR codes, you can accept credit or debit with everyday low fees. There's no additional hardware or software needed. Generate your unique QR code from the PayPal app and display it on your device, or print it to display in store. Customers scan your code with their PayPal app. You only need your smartphone. Learn more at paypal.com/us/getqrcode.
All right, so for the first time in a while, it's time for top 5.
Yeah, Let's do it. I'm excited.
Yeah, and a pretty topical one at that. On today's installment of the Top 5 Friday, we go over our list of top 5 worst Washington football team names. So, in case you missed this came out yesterday. Each season ticket holder was given a list of 10 or so names, and were asked to choose their top 2. They were given a list of 10, and they mixed them up. They had 30 different ones, and they gave them to season ticket holders. They were basically their focus group.
Yeah.
If anybody's seen this list, my God. My God. Please check it out. It has to be some kind of a sick joke. I don't really understand the motives behind it.
It's Snyder, doing the Mr. Burns. He's like, hey, you guys wanted one? Here you go.
Yeah, it's like blocking out the sun, like Burns did. But this was a really difficult list to come up with a top 5.
Oh my gosh, man.
Because they're genuinely all horrible. Every single one of them. I mean, some are significantly worse than others. They still have red tails on there. They have red wolves. That shit. No Washington FC, though, Noel. A little upset about that. And no pigskins.
Well, they have Washington, D.C. FC.
Yes.
Washington, D.C. football team. Like, let's try to make it as long and annoying as possible.
That's pretty demoralizing that Washington FC isn't even a part of the equation.
It is annoying.
But it's a tough list to get through, to say the least. But, that's what we do here. We have to make tough decisions, especially on these top 5. So here we go.
Anybody can make an arbitrary number list. We've cut it to 5 because we're decisive and we get to the point.
Yep.
And that's what we do.
So let's start with number 5.
All right.
What's yours, Noel?
My number 5 is, it's a combo deal. There's 2 of them on there, and there's a method to my madness.
Okay.
Archers.
Okay, it's pretty good.
Archers, and another one is Warriors. So there's a reason that I put them both as my number 5. They tied, I guess. The reason I put them on there is because weren't you trying to get away from the Native American lore or whatever it was
Anything Native American, you're trying to get away from.
And that's what I said. Like, you can't even use certain words when it comes to that around Washington area anymore. So imagine a guy scores a touchdown, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the first thing he's going to do when he scores, or the crowd? They're going to do a bow and arrow, right?
Well, isn't it more like a Robin Hood type of archer? Maybe that's what
get the hell out.
Maybe that'll be like their mascot. Like Robin Hood will be hopping around. Or like the Robin Hood from Disney that's a fox or whatever.
The fox. Exactly. So you're going to have to spin it in some way. But at the end of the day, they used to be called a racial slur of Native Americans, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you're getting yourself kind of backdooring it the way you want. And then also Warriors. We've talked about Washington Warriors before when they were going to do the arena football team and they were going to have the arrow on the side of the helmet and all that. That's going right back into what you were trying to distance yourself from.
And what could you possibly do as a logo for that? A spear is going to be somewhere in there.
The Spaniard from Gladiator? I mean, what do you... Like, a warrior? What is...
I don't know. You're totally right, though. I mean, if you're trying to distance yourself from that, why would that even be on the list? Archers, I can kind of, not quite...
Like a long bow from Britain? Like
yeah, like Braveheart.
Yeah. What?
Well...
I have a picture of King George on the side with a huge bow and arrow.
Longshanks.
It's so dumb. So anyway, that's my number 5.
Maybe that's their weird way of saying that, like, see, our fans voted for Warriors. We're going to do what the fans want to do. We're transparent, and that could be their backdoor way.
But also you have Golden State. When people think of Warriors, maybe 10 years ago, or maybe 15 years ago when the Warriors sucked for a decade. But now, when you think of Warriors, you think of Golden State.
That doesn't bother me, the same name.
It does. It definitely
does. There's multiple
does.
Names across the board.
There are multiple names. We're not talking about when names came out in 1910. We're talking about now when you're making a decision to go a route and copying a team. Like they had Razorbacks on the list. What's the first thing you think of? Arkansas Razorbacks, yeah. Pig Suey,
yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just how it is. Anyway, so that's why I went with number 5 is because it kind of is in that realm of Native American thinking.
That's fair. Well, my number 5 is Defenders. If you remember, the XFL had the DC Defenders. I'm assuming they'd be called the Washington Defenders in this case. Maybe they'd be called the DC Defenders. Hey, let's just use the XFL's, whole getup.
Why don't they merge?
Yeah, they should. We already had one shitty Ohio State quarterback. Let's bring him.
Bring you another.
Yeah, but maybe they'll do the whole uniform thing, the red and white.
Oh my god,
those uniforms are terrible. They look like the Sharks from Any Given Sunday, except they were red.
Red.
Not a fan of those. But what would possess you to just take the Defenders? I mean, it's a stupid name to begin with.
It's already a name in the same city.
Right. Or like, we like that XFL had half a year they played so much. So we're going to go ahead and take that.
Oh my God. When the announcer said the Defenders are defending, like, oh my gosh. It just rolls off the tongue.
Well, and Washington Warriors. I hate the WW or the DD.
Oh, me too. It's such a cop out.
And
it's not that good.
It's not that good of a name anyway. But then you just had a team that was there a year and a half ago that had the same name in the same city. Dumb as shit.
Right. It's so dumb.
So it's not honestly the worst name on the list, but not having any imagination whatsoever to put that on the list is so ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
Trust me, there are way worse actual names on the list, and we'll get to those.
That was just ludicrous that you would copy off of that.
Exactly. All right, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is, and because we're the nation's capital, the Ambassadors.
There aren't ambassadors other places?
The Washington Ambassadors. What is this, like old NSL soccer? Like, we had like Pele or the Washington Diplomats. What is
I'd rather have that than ambassadors, the Diplomats.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Well, they called them the Dips.
We got to shorten everything, right?
Yeah, we got to shorten. This would be AMB. The AMS. Okay, we get it. You're a national government city and all that. You don't have to have it. And The Washington Ambassadors, really?
You know, again, just a name they're throwing out.
They're basing it off of themes because we're in the nation's capital. And I get that. They're throwing out, presidents and, I don't know, representatives and all this shit. But it's stupid. Ambassadors isn't even like DC based. They are people from other countries.
Every country has ambassadors.
Every country has ambassadors in it.
Right.
It's stupid. I could even wrap my head around like presidents or when they called them the senators. At least they're US based. I mean, senators are in other countries, but you know what I mean. Ambassadors? Why don't you just call them the United Nations?
What would be the mascot for the ambassadors?
I don't know, like diplomatic immunity. Like the guy from Lethal Weapon, it's just been revoked. When he pops him in the head,
would it be like, I don't know, like
a suit?
Like colonial style ambassador, like the old, like a George Washington?
No, I think honestly what you could do is, Matt, and here's a perfect idea for you. Since they're ambassadors, you could be like Oregon Ducks and change your uniform and have a different themed country every game.
There you go.
So like you do Uganda one time and then the next time you do, and you could do Reyes if he makes the team. You could do Chile.
Well, that'd be the first one.
You could do Chile one time and then
around FedEx Field, you have every flag of every country.
Flag. Yeah, it's just the whole thing.
We're the world's football team.
The world's football team.
There you go.
So dumb.
Yeah, I think I just talked myself into it there. I think that's not too bad. Be like the Olympics.
God.
All right, so my number 4 is Demon Cats. I mean, that name...
You could just end it there.
Honestly, it's kind of one of the better names on the list.
It's so dumb.
What does that even mean?
We're going to take cats and just put something in front of it. Wild is a little, played out.
It's called
So let's replace the... What's a demon cat anyway?
Is that a real cat?
I have no idea.
I didn't do any research.
Is it indigenous to the DC swamps before it became a city? They had to push out the demon cats.
I mean, it's unbelievable. Like, who came up with this list?
That's like a name that when I have my kid's soccer team, right? I coach Ryan's soccer team. And I say, guys, the first practice, I'm like, hey, guys, go home. Think about a name. They come back with like banana ponies, right. And shit like that. I'm like, we're not going with that. Or like polka dot vipers.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. You're totally right.
Yeah.
It's just putting together two random things and there's your name.
Yeah.
You think that we're being made fun of by being called the Washington football team now? Imagine being called the Washington Demon Cats.
Demon Cats. Now that I look at it, I guess maybe it's DC.
Oh. But still terrible.
Awful. I'm not defending it. Now I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh, D and C. I guess maybe they just took two. Let's just take a word that starts with D. Everybody likes cats.
But these are demon cats.
Thank goodness they're not doing like now theme-based things. Like when Toronto named their team, Jurassic Park had come out, so they named them the Raptors. Yeah. At least they're not going to, do some Avengers name or something,
The Washington Captain Americas. That's not bad.
Caps.
We're the Caps. Well, we already have a Caps. All right. What's your number 3, Noel?
And this doesn't really roll off the tongue, nor is it worth a shit. Wayfarers. Now, you tell me, Matt, what the hell is a wayfarer?
I have not the slightest clue.
Okay, well, I will tell you, and I promise I didn't look it up.
Bullshit.
No, I'm telling you. Initially, I didn't. I already knew what a wayfarer was.
I know what wayfarer.com is.
Well, Paul Revere was considered a wayfarer because he wandered from town to town, okay? So I think that's where they're getting it. Stupidest thing I've ever heard. But it's basically a gypsy. That's what it is. Now, it sounds awful, and what the fuck does it have to do with anything?
I don't know. I mean, I guess they're technically going from city to city. They are a traveling football team.
I guess.
I mean, if you really think about it, it makes sense.
They are. They're always on the road. Always just a bag in hand. My God. And it doesn't even sound good. No. I'd rather them be called the Gypsies.
Yeah. That could work. It rolls off.
Wayfarers. I think some people don't even know how to pronounce it. It took me like 3 times to say that 3 times fast. Wayfarers. Wayfarers.
I'll let you do that. All right.
It's awful.
Horrible name.
It's just awful. Who uses that word? let alone to make it a name.
I think I got a pretty solid vocabulary, and if I don't know what a word means, I'm pretty disappointed with myself. But I'm not with that one for whatever reason, just because it's the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
It's like old English shit.
Washington Wayfarers. Hey, that
starts with a W.
Starts with a W. All right. Well, my number 3 is the Washington 32 Football Club, also known as 32 FC, but also known as W32. They put that in parentheses for whatever reason. I don't know. We've both been proponents for the Washington Football Club, Washington FC, but adding that little 32 really gives it
it just gives it a little oomph.
A little oomph,
Yeah.
Shows, I'm assuming 32 means they started in 1932. Nicely done there.
Why did it call them the 32ers?
Shit, that's not bad. It's better than this. I mean, there's already a 49ers.
Yeah, the 32ers. Boom, done.
I think you just came up with the name, Noel. There you go.
Thank you. Apparently, they're not going to use FC because they have to add something to it.
There's another one on there that's FC that's like Capital City Go-Go Strippers or something. FC.
It's First City FC. Oh my gosh. It's like, just stick to the game plan. Keep it simple, stupid. If that's what you want to do with the football club shit, Washington Football Club, done. WFC.
And if you want to do the established 1932 like they do with the football team, fine. It doesn't need to be in the name, though.
I know.
What are you doing?
Like, the reason why I didn't put that on my list, like we said, there's a million of them. But there are clubs out there in soccer, in like the Bundesliga and in the Premier League, that do put numbers in their titles at times. Like, I think Stuttgart has 17 in it because they were started in like 1917 or whatever.
Great. Well, great.
It's just as stupid.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it's good.
And the concern is not to do Washington FC because that's, soccer related. But now you double down and add the 32 to make it like even more soccer specific.
I know.
It's the dumbest shit ever.
It's so stupid.
Wow.
I'd rather them keep football team at this point.
Oh, and I think that's what they're trying to do. And football team's on the list, by the way.
Yeah. Or they could go...
Not on my list, but...
The Washington 32 football team. Maybe they'll do that.
Didn't make the list, Noel. It's not going to happen.
It didn't. Sorry.
Thank you, season ticket holders, for cutting that one out. All right. What's your number 2?
Anchors. I don't really know what else to say about it.
Don't anchors just make it so you don't move anywhere? Isn't that it's subjective?
Yeah.
In a boat, of course. But to me, it means you would like suck because you're staying put and you're not going anywhere.
You're a heavy way down.
Right. Yeah, it's like being a,
Is
dark
it because
cloud
they're
or something.
on the Potomac?
Well, there's a river there, so they got a lot of options here.
Do we know DC as a water-faring place? I'm just playing devil's advocate for a second, but like Baltimore anchors, at least it's on the fucking Chesapeake.
Well, the Washington Sentinels were on the Inner Harbor.
Yeah, you're liking that today. Yeah.
That movie pisses me off to no end. Swear to God.
Yeah, when he's cleaning the coral off of the boat.
Like, what are you doing here?
Where's he doing this? In front of the Watergate Hotel? Where the fuck is he doing this? In front of the Kennedy Center?
So stupid.
It's so dumb. Anchors? And you're just going to slap, a big anchor on the side in yellow?
Oh, my God. Hey,
it's just so
dumb.
Gold,
gold. How dare you? We're keeping the colors, if nothing else.
Oh, yeah, Let's
true. Have a little respect.
Sorry about that. I could see if it was bad, if it had some type of theme with the city.
Right.
And it was bad. It's just nothingness.
I'd be fine at this point with this list, just like Washington Monuments or something. Just if you're going to go city, I know it's stupid and it's not Redskins, but this list, and again, you got to see this fucking list. I'm telling you right now, you will be so demoralized that one of these names are eventually going to be ours. I'll tell you that much. It's a sad state of affairs.
The only thing they do as far as themes are like we talked about, ambassadors, presidents, I don't know, janitors at the Capitol building. But anyway, go ahead. What's your number 2?
That would also be Wayfarers. I could not put that one on. It, again, had no idea what it meant. and I really didn't care.
I know.
But it's just so goddamn stupid.
Oh, yeah. So bad.
Well, so I won't get into that.
Every time I say it, it pisses me off.
That may end up being the name. Could you imagine any of these? But this is so sad.
Yeah, it is.
It's so sad.
It's all a ploy.
Yeah.
And we're feeding into it by doing a top 5. We're giving it legs.
We're giving it legs. I guess going back to, before we get to our number 1, going back to the thing, they gave the 10 names, 10 plus names or whatever, and then you had to pick your top 2. People picked Wayfarers, Noel. That's why it's on this list.
I know.
People picked Washington 32 Football Club. That was a part of their top 2. Could you imagine what the other ones were? Either that or it's just really stupid people. But you would think that season ticket holders will give a shit what the name is. You would think.
You would think that there's an option on there. I would rather have Washington Other. And they just have a slot there.
Well, sad. All right, let's go to number 1. What's yours?
All right. Number 1 is what I would consider the worst one on the list. Has no theme with the city. I don't know where the hell they're going with it. Color wouldn't even make sense. Rubies.
Rubies. That's mine too.
What?
It sounds like a team from a league of their own. It does.
It totally would.
And here comes the Washington Rubies. Yeah. Oh, look at those skirts and shit.
The Hagerstown Rubies. Yeah.
Please, somebody explain to me how this has any relation to this football team or this city or anything.
Like I said, if I'm misinformed, somebody Google it for me and find an old mine in off the Anacostia River at some point. I mean, give me something to work with this one, please.
Yeah. Are Rubies indigenous to the Washington, D.C. area?
Yeah.
Possibly. I don't know.
No, they're not.
No, of course
Definitely not. And the color.
Yeah.
When I think of Ruby, I think of, Ruby slippers.
Ruby slippers? What?
Wizard of Oz.
Oh,
okay. Ruby slippers, things like that, where it's a real red.
Yeah, it's red. It's fucking red.
Maybe that'll be a way they'll do the Defenders uniforms.
See? There you go.
And that'll be something that they do. There's no place like home, and then they'll click them, they'll have it on the screen.
Yeah, they'll have the whole crew, the Lion, the Tin Man.
They'll make sure they blur out our ankles, though. We don't want any
see that.
leg. What a bad fucking name.
Horrible.
I mean, how dare you insult us by having some of this shit on here?
This whole list is insulting. You're absolutely right. And if they're doing it for whatever reason they're doing it for, to filter out the bullshit just to stay with Washington football team and to show that they're trying or whatever it is, you cannot send this to people and act like you're being serious.
Right.
If you are being serious, you shouldn't have this job.
Jason Wright is off to a real bad start here.
Really bad.
If this is the product he's bringing in, I'm sorry, my friend.
And he seems like a sharp guy.
You seem like a really good dude. All right, you seem like you got your head screwed on straight and you came to a shitty deal. But you're not getting off the ground running when it comes to the name, I can tell you that much.
And he can't get off easy with this.
No.
There's something mentally wrong with you if you looked at that list and was like, yeah, let's send this one out. Absolutely.
Yeah. That you actually sat down with your committee or whatever the hell you have, and you started breaking down the list on like the big board.
They whiteboarded it.
You whiteboarded it, and you started breaking down, okay, so... Demon Cats.
What do y'all think about Demon Cats? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
DC.
Yeah. Now we're talking.
Rubies, yeah. Okay, I could spin that. We are burgundy, but, sometimes
it's a little
rubies,
off, but, we can make it work.
There are rubies sometimes that are a little bit darker, so we can kind of spin that around a little bit. They are hard. When you play hard, what the fuck are you people talking about? I don't know what pisses me off more at this point. The loss of Redskins as the name, which I kind of was getting over a little bit. It'll always be a wound, right? Mm-hmm. A wound that never heals. But you are really pushing my buttons now, my friend. That wound isn't healed yet. It's been a year or ish, whatever it's been. And now you're exposing me to this dog shit?
They're supposed to be this transparent, diverse franchise now. And you're putting out this dog shit, which would be a better name than all of the names that are on the list, by the way.
Pig shit. There we go.
I mean, you're insulting our intelligence, and to put it out that you are actually trying to make these names did not come out of thin air, right?
No.
You came, as you said, to with a committee and came up with these names. Why are you doing this? Just be honest. Just tell us, and I'm trying to wrap my head around it. Are they trying to just say fuck you to the people because they had to lose the name or something? Or is this Snyder put the dumbest shit you can possibly come up with? That's the only thing I come up with. And that worries me because that means that we're back to square one.
I would have more respect for this team if they said, fuck you, this is what we're going with. We had to get rid of this name. We're going to choose the new one. We didn't choose to get rid of the first one. We're going to choose this one. Sorry to fans. Sorry to everybody with this Red Wolves, everybody signing up 100,000 signatures bullshit. If I'm Daniel Snyder, I'd have more respect for him if he said, look, I fought for you guys to keep the name. It's gone. It's my turn now. And be done with this. I would have much more respect for the organization if they did that and said, this is the name we're going with. I don't give a shit who likes it. I don't care who makes fun of it. It's on me now. And that's it.
Yeah, this got heated.
It did.
For top 5.
It did. Usually they're lighthearted, but man, see, this is what happens when we do these like current event ones.
Yeah, we shouldn't do these anymore.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
We're talking about doing like worst spring break trips or some shit. We're like, you know what? We got a list right here.
Yeah.
We got a pretty solid list.
Yeah.
Anyway. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. We're on all major podcast platforms. Please rate, review, and subscribe. If you like this show, please share it on social media. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, the Facebook group, and our website, beltwaysportsbros.com. Thanks again for listening. Hope you have a great weekend. Go Rubies.